Never and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another and suffer the indignity. And suffer the indignity of being the scum of the world. The sun shall never set on so glorious a human achievement. Let freedom reign. God bless Africa. I thank you.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Unshackled podcast with me, your host, Anthony Mukanya. So, on the 5th of December 2005, a young man from the DRC left his country to move to South Africa, seduced by the promises of that country that will enable people like me from the continent to acquire a world-class education from largest university like the University of Cape Town or the University of Witwatersrand. Okay, the university that have produced Rhodes Scholars as well as Nobel Prize winners in literature, medicine, and chemistry, and also peace laureates. Okay, including people like Nelson Mandela. So I was very seduced by that promise. The second promise was the fact that South Africa, based on the vision that Mandela had, South Africa had said that anyone living in that land would be protected. Remember that sentence that you saw earlier where Mandela says, never again will a person or a person living in South Africa will suffer discrimination. Okay, that's what he said when he became president in 1994. But sadly, due to failure of service delivery, primarily in many communities, okay, and corruption, the country has not lived up to its promises. And one of those aspects in terms of service delivery is the next clip that you're about to watch. So let's go into it now.
Several toilets remain open in Ramalutsi Township outside Viljoenskroon. But the municipality claims a combination of party politics and residents who are unhappy with the quality of their enclosures have led to several enclosures being demolished.
Just interview the residents or the people that are residing here. They've boldly confirmed before the Human Rights Commission that they had a toilet, and instead they demolished it because DA people came and they had to build a braai stand.
But many residents say they were instructed to tear down their enclosures by municipal contractors promising to build them new ones, a claim supported by the DA. While the HRC is satisfied with the municipality's explanation, it's questioned Mugaka's procurement practices.
Basic minimum level of sanitation was provided to residents. But as a commission, we feel that much more still needs to be done, because at the commencement of this project, there was double spending on the part of the municipality.
The Commission, in collaboration with the Human Settlements Department, will now undertake an audit of an estimated 176 demolished toilets and have them enclosed. Ulkutsia, Viljoenskroon.
So as you've seen for yourself, the corrupt ANC government has failed completely to deliver in terms of its promises to lift people out of poverty and into the middle class. And there is no better example of that than this clip that I've just shown you. Okay. Now, the second promise, the second aspect, as I said, so it was the education as well as the promise of living in peace in one country, no matter the skin color of the person. However, this year, in around March of April of this year, the government released plans to basically overhaul the labor market. And under this plan, the head of the Department of Labor, so the Minister of Labor, has the power to identify up to 18 different sectors of the economy and to impose quotas on these sectors so that these sectors will hire more people of African descent. Okay, so for my international viewers and listeners, so you need to understand that South Africa, the black population or Bantu population like me, I'm also ethnically Bantu, who lived primarily in the central and up until some point in the southern part of Africa. So Bantu people, okay, may make up about between 76 and 78%, will vary from year to year, and the white population makes up about 9 to 10%. The Indian population roughly the same, and you also have the colored population that are also roughly the same. Now, a warning: the colored themselves, it's not what how people see things in the US. So a colored community are in fact of mixed heritage. So there will be the European, some of the African, Bantu, as I mentioned. You will have some of the Quechan people, so who also were the first one to inhabit the land. Okay, so they call themselves colored because they tend to be they are a mixture, or they are of mixed heritage. Okay, so it is just the reality there. Now, they cannot consider themselves fully black, and they cannot also consider themselves white either. So they are in between, in limbo. Now, why is that key? It is key because under this proposal, about 600,000 jobs held currently by white or colored or Indians are going to find themselves are going to be could be cut if the companies don't make the quotas as the government want. So it is really a situation that is, in my opinion, disgusting. So that is the first story. The second story that you will see with the clip that will come later is the issue that once again in South Africa, the Department of Water and Agriculture gave itself the power to give licenses or water licenses for use in agriculture based once again on the person's skin color. You heard that right. Once again, your skin color in South Africa will determine your access to water, as the government is desperately trying to deal with the fact that in the agricultural sector, the majority of people working there are mainly white, and they're trying to overrule that. But in doing so, they will push out a lot of people who currently have their farms and their businesses. And that, my friends, will put more pressure on food security in a time when things are already volatile in the country. So those are the two stories that we're going to look at. So I will put two clips to inform you of the situation, and then I'll come back and give my 2 cents on this story.
All right, let's bring it back home now. Solidarity says it will challenge the unconstitutional Employment Equity Amendment Act, which was assented into law by President Cyril Ramaphosa last month. The Labour Union said that the law granted draconian racial powers to the Minister of Labour and Employment, and its legal team would serve court papers soon. Now, let's get the latest. We are now joined via Zoom by Solidarity's Research Institute head, Connie Mulder. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, Connie. What about the Amendment Act?
Thank you, Nati.
What about the Amendment Act then is unconstitutional for you, and what will then your legal submission entail?
Okay, Nati, so when we look at the Amendment Act, I think the section that worries us particularly is Section 15, which gives the minister power to almost arbitrarily publish sectoral targets on provincial level per employment level, like top management, senior management. And the minister has actually published these regulations. And what this entails is you've got a minister that from the union buildings can suddenly decide what every single business in this country should look like, with severe penalties attached to it if you do not comply. And this, from our perspective, is akin to a quota system, which is expressly prohibited. We do not want to move to a situation where we're once again having quotas for certain races in the labour market. And that is the gist of our legal team submission would be. This entails no longer targets with incentives. It's now a quota system with much more stick and much less carrot.
I see that the DA will be joining you in your submission. Just talk to us a little bit about that partnership, particularly at a time where South Africa is really experiencing the effects of inequality at a larger scale. So I think a lot of South Africans would also want to know where you stand in this partnership.
Yes, so it's not only the DA, we've got NIASA, the Employers Association, the Freedom Front, the DA, and from what we can tell, several other parties that are going to join this court case. In terms of what the problem would be with this legislation is if its goal is to eliminate inequality, it's not going to make a dent. And that what we need to do to actually get people jobs is we need to start fixing the education pipeline. And this is a veiled attempt by the government who has dismally failed in providing people with the requisite skills and qualifications to actually get this economy going, to now try and take a shortcut, which is not sustainable and which will lead, if our calculations are correct, to a loss of almost 2/3 of the white and coloured labourers in the top 4 levels, as well as 1 out of 4 coloured people who are working in the top 4 levels will have to somehow be moved from those levels to match the targets that the minister has published last week Friday. Now, this cannot be the way that we rectify anything. If the argument is going to be we need to do this level of social engineering to get to a situation, then that is a very dangerous slippery slope of the end justifying the means. And that is why we have no choice but to go to court, and we're not going.
The Department of Water and Sanitation has moved to clear up confusion surrounding the race quotas for water licenses. The most recent Agribusiness Confidence Index is on the worst levels seen since COVID-19. Now, for more on this, we are joined by the CEO of Agbiz, Theo Boshoff. Mr. Boshoff, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Now, the race quotas that are being implemented by the Department of Agriculture, why do you believe that when it comes to the issuing of water use licenses, it would be catastrophic for the agricultural sector in terms of food security?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. So I think a couple of things are important to note. Firstly, it's not been implemented yet. So it's a proposal that's currently on the table. It's obviously been put on the table by the Department of Water and Sanitation in draft regulations that were published for public comment. So the National Water Act, which does currently apply in South Africa, does have a strong element of transformation of water sector reform in it, but these factors need to be weighed up with different factors. So essentially what the regulations proposed would be a percentage shareholding that's required for any new license application. Depending on the consumption of water, it would move up between either 25, 50, 75% black shareholding that would be required in an entity to obtain a new water use license for the large consumptive water use like irrigation, for instance.
So, as you saw it for yourselves, guys, this is what happens when leaders lose track of what goal they're going towards, and they start to pit groups against each other. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense because it's going to jeopardize jobs, it's going to jeopardize food security, it's going to jeopardize national cohesion. And that's why I personally think that it is in fact possible to be addicted to what I would call affirmative action policies. And I hope that the ANC government will reconsider that. For me, it is unbelievable, okay? It is completely unbelievable that a country that has suffered so much under oppressive, racist policies from a government would not learn from the mistake of the past and are about to repeat them again. Because I do believe that it is possible, once again, I will repeat it, to be addicted to affirmative action policies. Because I know the people there. These are people who take pride in the work. And I don't understand why their government, instead of doing everything in their power to make sure that they deliver the services that they claim to deliver to the people, instead of, for example, building houses that are crumbling or building toilets outside, as we saw in that clip before, instead of doing all of that, they could focus on delivering things appropriately for the people. But they don't want to do that. For example, on the education side, around the time where they built the toilets, again, that was, I believe, 10 or 11 years ago, you also had the government coming up with an idea of cutting portions of the curriculum out, the mathematics curriculum out, so in an attempt to artificially boost the number of kids who were able to pass the matric. So the matric is the high school diploma. It makes no sense. And the result of that were catastrophic, because although a lot of kids could now have access or could now earn their high school diploma, the matric, the problem was that the people who were then going to university were not able to function at a very, very high level. Because unlike those who had the opportunity to go to a private school, they were not prepared for that. So the result was a very, very high dropout rate for the black community over there. So essentially, all that they had done was that they had moved the problem from one year of the life of those students to another. And they never really fully addressed the underlying issues, which means propping up education, which means making sure that you recruit good teachers, which means that you're training those teachers correctly. None of those things were taken care of, and we had the result that we had. So that's why I am totally against policies such as affirmative action, because it makes the recipient of those less likely to understand that their future depends on them and them alone. And it's also used by the government to impose things that they know is not going to work, and to artificially have result in the short term, and then basically kick the can down the road, the problems, and only figure it out, to give themselves time to figure it out in 10 or 20 years time. This is what has been happening. And that's why in one of my videos before, I had said that I am totally and completely against affirmative action. It's because of that. Government hide things behind that. They hide their own failures. And I think it is completely disgusting. So let me know what you guys think about that. Is this normal? Is this normal that in 2022 we once again have a case of people being threatened, people being under pressure financially because of the jobs, and also not have access to a strategic resources such as water in order to grow the business, to grow crops, the very crops that will help the country to stay food to have enough food for the people living there. So let me know what you guys think. Is this normal or not? I for one think it's not. So please don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe to my channel. Peace.